Most buyers don't realize they bought a mistake until the papers are signed. Excitement is a dangerous tool in real estate. It can blind you to logic. It hides some structural truth here. So today we're going to look at some errors that can cost you thousands when you're in the buying process. Hey, my name is Jimmy. I am a local realtor here in Ottawa. And later in this video, I'm going to explain why using a friend or your uncle who's handyman as your inspector when buying your home can cost you tens of thousands of dollars. So my first mistake to avoid is don't confuse approval with affordability. The bank's math is not your math. It starts with understanding how banks actually calculate your limit. Lenders qualify you based on your gross income. So before any taxes come out, the bank gives you their absolute maximum, but you live on your net income. The bank doesn't consider your monthly grocery bills or your lifestyle needs when they give you that approval. The bank approves you the loan, not your quality of life within it. Just because the bank approves the loan for you, it doesn't mean it's going to determine your quality of life. So budget for your life, not just for what the mortgage needs to be. Now, it's really easy to get qualified online now. You can go to any website and with a single click find out how much money you might have to actually purchase a home here in Ottawa. People confuse getting pre-qualified with getting pre-approved. Now, getting pre-qualified is pretty easy. There's tons of websites online. You can just go and with a single click, you can put in some basic information and it can give you a rough basic digital guess as to what your approval will be. To know your real numbers, you need pre-approval, which is where your lender reviews things like your T4s, your pay stubs, your debts, your assets. This gets you your actual maximum value. So don't mistake that marketing tool on a mortgage website as a financial guarantee. You need to verify the numbers before you start shopping. Another place where people miss is confusing list price with monthly payment. So often when we're out looking at houses, we get sort of stuck on the sticker price, which is the list price of the house. But once you have your real pre-approval from a bank or from a mortgage broker, I need you to budget your finances to see what payment you are comfortable with. Determining your monthly comfort zone is really the first step to feel secure when you're offering on a home. Because when you are offering on a home and there are negotiations back and forth, you want to know what number that this seller is getting back to you with actually equates to a mortgage payment for you, not just a rough idea of how much this house will cost based on your approval. So knowing your real number, it definitely helps remove anxiety during the offer process. It is important for you to know your monthly cash flow because that's what you're going to be living on, not your approval from the bank. The second mistake I help clients make sure they do not have is to get past looking at staging. So we must separate the feeling of the home with its physical reality. This one's so common. It is really easy to get distracted by a beautiful presentation, and real estate agents are very good at presenting homes in very positive lighting. There are 6 items that we want you to focus on that are the things that can cost you the most money. Because the staging is lovely, but good staging doesn't keep a basement dry. I like teaching my clients to look past the fresh paint, the furniture, and to see the layout first. I want you to focus on high cost items, things like your foundation, your furnace, your AC, your electrical, your plumbing, your windows, the roof. Those are the things that can cost tens of thousands of dollars to replace. So we want to stop looking at the lipstick of the house and start looking at the infrastructure. The staging is lovely, but it's not going to be there when you move in. The mechanicals are permanent. Now, when you go visit a house at, let's say, 2 o'clock in the afternoon and it looks lovely, the streetscape is great, the lighting is perfect, that's a very strong encouragement to why you want to make an offer on this house. However, I encourage people to go back to the neighborhood, go back to the street, especially if it's one you're unfamiliar with, at the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock, once it gets dark moment. The environment changes when the sun goes down. So a neighborhood could look extremely different from 2 p.m. when you saw it to 10 p.m. at nighttime when no one's really looking at it. You want to check for things like parking issues. You want to check for noise levels. You want to see if the neighbors are actually home or is it vacant a lot of the time. A perfect house on the wrong street is still a mistake, so observe the area at all hours. Now, I know that's not possible to be able to go there and look at the house at any hour, but if you see it during the day, try to find one other time before you sign on the dotted line to get there when the sun is down. That'll give you a good example of what it's like, at least during the day and at night. Now, you can't renovate some things that are outside your house. So things like high voltage lines, are those in the background? We can't change those. Things like, where does the sun come in? Is it east facing, west facing, south facing, north facing? We're not going to be able to change that. Note if your neighbors are owners or renters, and one way to do that is by looking at the mailbox. If there's multiple numbers on that mailbox, well, then you have an idea that maybe that's a duplex or a triplex property. That will impact resale, as there could be more cars on the road, more people around, more garbage out on a weekly basis. These elements impact your long-term stability on that street, because if you can't change it, you have to be able to live with it. My third and last point with you is due diligence negligence. Now, I know that's a bit of a mouthful, but this is honestly where the most expensive mistakes happen. This often happens when buyers feel pressured to move really fast. So the first thing is your conditions. And one of the first conditions that people think about, let's say, waiving instead of going through, is financing. It feels like if you're pre-approved by a reputable bank and a lender, what's the big deal? You already have your financing covered behind you, so why can't you make your offer a little bit more incentivized by removing that financing condition? But it's honestly still a big gamble, and there are issues that can come up to it. So if a home, let's say you go ahead and buy the house and the home doesn't appraise as much as what you buy, well, you must pay the gap between what you paid for it and to what the appraisal came in for it. Now, that gap is fairly rare in Ottawa. I haven't seen one of significance in my career, but it doesn't mean it can't happen. And it's important to know that if that does happen, you are legally bound to close and to come up with the cash to cover that difference. Now, the other piece of doing your due diligence is having a home inspection. But home inspections cost money. They can range from anywhere between $500 to $1,000 or more, depending on the person you hire and the style of property. But I see people try to save pennies on an inspection, and yet that can cost you thousands of dollars later on, especially once you've moved in. This is where I mentioned bringing a tradesman who's an uncle or a friend of yours who's in renovations over for your home inspection just to save you a bit of money. Unfortunately, it's just short-sighted. That decision misses key structural issues. You want to hire a professional. Now, the professionals I hire typically charge between $500 and $700 for an average house. And quite frankly, we all know the cheapest option is rarely the most thorough. If you're going to be hiring someone who you research yourself, make sure you don't pick the lowest. Just before you buy this house, an inspection is literally the last level of real insurance you have. So do not be short-sighted with this piece of due diligence. The other due diligence item that we have to consider is resale. It doesn't mean you have to think about everything that's going to be important for reselling, but you need to consider some things. And honestly, most people move every 7 years, and that seems lower than what we maybe think, but on average, it's about 7 years is when people move. Lifestyle changes, career changes, working from home changes. You don't want to think about every single item needing to be done for resale, but you do want to consider some of the key features of the home, the layout, the neighborhood, the structure, anything that can't change. Those are important resale values. Even things like, does the third bedroom not have a closet? Those little items that maybe aren't important to you in 5-7 years might be important to someone else. This is called your exit strategy, and it is just important as your entry, so it's something we have to consider. So buy for you, but keep the market in the back of your mind. So overall, the things to avoid, you have to control your math. You have to look past the paint and never skip the hard checks. A home should be an asset and not a burden. I am working on another video called Ottawa's Most Underrated Neighborhoods, so keep an eye out for that one. My name's Jimmy, and I'll see you on the next one.